to the Cornerstone Forum. My name is Erin Johnson. I'm Assistant Vice President for Strategic Financial Initiatives here in University Finance and Administration and Chief of Staff to the EVP CFO. Very happy to have all of you today. While we continue to watch people join this webinar, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes associated with this meeting. Next slide, please. As this is a webinar, all attendees are placed on mute. However, we are recording and we will make this recording available on the web after the event. You will be able to submit questions for the presenters throughout the presentation using the Q&A feature, which should be for most of you at the bottom of your screen. And we'll stop at each breakpoint to ensure that we can address questions in a timely manner. All meeting materials will be available for download after this event on the Cornerstone website, and we will share that link at the end of the webinar. Now, I'm happy to introduce you to two of the executive team members for Cornerstone who are here with us today. The first is Michele Norin on the next slide. She's our SVP and CIO, and also one of the executive sponsors for the Cornerstone project. As you can see on the agenda slide, Michele will provide a program overview and share some updates related to the Concur travel and expense management system, which came online in July. Next, we will have John Fahey. He is the Vice President as you can see, our Vice President for Operations and Project Executive. John will then take us all through overviews related to the Scarlet Journey, the Student Improvement Initiative, and our HR Payroll, Human Resource Payroll Transformation Initiative. Now, Michele, I think I'm turning it to you.
Great, thanks, Erin, and good morning, everyone. I'm looking at the number of participants, and it's nice to see so many folks here. So really appreciate everyone carving out the time. Just to kind of set the context for what we're going to hear about today. Cornerstone is our initiative to update and modernize our enterprise level business systems. If you're not familiar with this initiative, we launched this back in 2014 with a goal to replace all of our systems: finance, HR, payroll, student. We've brought in CRM, and so we've been working at this for several years now. We have Oracle Finance in place now, as well as some budgetary tools, the financial aid systems in place now. And so we've been diligently working on sort of progressing through that implementation. What you see here on this slide represents the initiatives that are in motion currently, either because we've just implemented and we're still in that phase after implementation where we work towards stability of the system and the processes around the systems, or we're in the middle of implementing, or we're getting ready and we're thinking about and planning for implementation. And so you can see that here with what we've kind of outlined. You're going to hear details about all of these in a few minutes from John when I hand it over to him. But from a high level, we've, as Erin just mentioned, we went live with the SAP Concur system, which is our travel and expense management system, back in July. And so you're going to hear about that. We're in the midst of implementing Oracle's human capital management system, or the HR payroll system. And our target date there is July of 2025. So we've got a lot going on around that right now in terms of just getting through the steps that we need to take to move ourselves into that new system. We also have an effort around the chart of accounts, which is tied to this implementation of that system. And so we are right smack in the middle of that particular process. We've been also focusing on pieces of the Student Experience Improvement Initiative, which is our lead-in to the student system itself. As I mentioned, we went live with the financial aid module several years ago. And so we've been working through several of those cycles since that implementation. We've been working around the application and recruitment side of that particular process, which you're going to hear a little bit about today as well. Also looking at the student processes themselves. The bulk of this we will embark on at some point over this next year as we start to prepare for that implementation. Once we get a little bit further into or sort of past the HCM implementation. The other area that we've been focusing on is around what we call the Scarlet Journey. We decided to incorporate a constituent planning system, a CRM, a constituent resource management system. For us, that's Salesforce. We use Salesforce not only for our application, the early version of our application before we went live with Common App, but also working very closely with our colleagues in the foundation to implement those modules that are related to giving and foundation work. And so we are well into that implementation as well. Very good progress there. And then next on our list for that is athletics. So we've got a lot going on there, and you'll hear specifics as well as the Common App. You're going to hear some details about that as well. So if you could go to the next slide, there is one piece that I do want to zero in on, particularly around the travel and expense management system. Again, we've been live on this now since July. And, the goal here is to have one place for travel, expenses, reimbursements, credit card management, types of transactions and activities. And now we have that with a Concur system. We're in the phase past go live where there's refinement, there's working through the processes. And so, we're encouraging feedback about how this might be working for you if you're using it, and that'll help us continue to refine it. We've had a lot of activity already, and you can see that here in the stats. Since we've gone live, there's been 6,522 expense reports filed, equating to about $4.6 million. We've had about 3,500 travel transactions or trips that have been booked through the system since July, which equates to about $1.8 million in reservation sort of dollars, either by air or Amtrak, because you can also reserve for Amtrak travel through this system as well. So it's exciting. Again, I think we're still all learning about the system. And so there's lots of resources around it as well for people if they need any kind of assistance here. So just wanted to zero in on this particular one, just to kind of show the progress here and what some of the usage levels are. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to John, who is going to spend some time now with you all on the details around these initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and good morning, everyone. We can go to the next slide, Max. So I'm going to start this morning with our Scarlet Journey, which is our constituent relationship management program. Next slide, please. So as Michelle mentioned, our CRM program is built on a Salesforce platform. The first phase of the program, this is a multi-phase, multi-year initiative. The first phase was focused on enrollment management, which we went live with 3 years ago. We are now in our 4th academic year for application cycles within the new system. This year, as part of our 4th cycle, we did some updates to the system, continuing to enhance and improve the system for our student applicants. This year, we updated some residency items around EOF review and automating those review processes. We've added some new fields in around preferred names, personal emails, and some specific questions around the New Brunswick Campus Honors Program. We've added some additional validations into the system, auto validations for state abbreviations, graduation dates. We've also integrated the applicant data from the School of Dental Medicine, our professional schools, our dental school, Both of our medical schools and our law school do not use the Salesforce system for the applicants themselves, but we do want to incorporate all our data. So we've completed that with the School of Dental Medicine. We've also migrated the Mason Gross School of Arts application data onto a new system. We got them off of what they were using called Slide Room and are now on a Slate system. We completed that. Right now, we are in the process of completing the launch of our SRAR, which is our self-reported academic record system, to include transfer students. Right now, it's only for incoming students. We're going to add transfers to that as well. We're also working on an integration of Five9. Five9 is a new platform, a new system that we're bringing on for our call centers to support our call centers and our one-stops. We're also assessing the possible replacement of our current event management system. We do have an event management system implemented that's live right now, but we're looking at some possibilities. There might be some systems out there that can provide some better capabilities and functionalities to us. So we're assessing that as a possible enhancement moving forward. We're also working on requirements for the law school to integrate the data. As I mentioned, we just finished the dental school, law school's next, and then we'll work with the medical schools. Right now, we're looking forward and we're in the cycle now. So we're moving into getting ready for mid-year admissions. And we're also working with all the chancellor units on prioritization and implementing more enhancements to have ready for next August for the 26-27 academic year cycle. Next slide, please. Also, in August of 2023, we launched Common App at Rutgers University. It's the first time we've enabled Common App for Rutgers. This is a hosted online application system where students can go in one place on one application, apply to multiple schools. There's over 1,000 colleges and universities that use this system. This is for first-year undergraduate applications is what we launched last year. And this helps streamline the data entry process for our applicants. This year, we also, for our second cycle, we integrated the ability for high school counselors to upload official high school transactions and transcripts for us right into the system. We're planning to add direct admits next year for our August 25 cycle. Right now, we are completing our academic year 25-26 cycle. We're in the middle of it, and we're working on those enhancements for the next academic year. So we go next slide. I'll share some stats with you. Again, we are in our next slide, Max. So we're in our fourth year. The first 2 years here were Salesforce only. So academic year 22-23, academic year 23-24 were just applications we received through Salesforce. You can see the first year we got just under 150,000. The second year we jumped up to over 170,000. And then you'll see a big jump in the third year, academic year 24-25. That was when we implemented Common App. So a huge increase in applications. Last year for academic year 24-25 applications, we received nearly 260,000 applications from students looking to come to Rutgers University. So a giant jump in applications, a huge help for our enrollment and admissions teams. So very, very good work there. We've already received nearly 15,000 applications this year. That's as of about a week and a half ago. And again, we're very early in the cycle. We see a majority of our applications coming in, late September into October and November. So we are expecting to get back to that level we were last year. But again, the Common App was a huge implementation for us. Big jump in our application numbers to over 250,000 applications we received last year alone. Next slide, please. So as Michele mentioned, the Scarlet Journey is not just about enrollment. This is a multi-year program. The second phase of it was focused on foundation and alumni relations. Their implementation has been underway for about 2 years now. And they're also doing the same thing as we are at the rest of the university. They're looking to transform and modernize their current systems and advance their operations. They're launching their second phase at the end of October. And that's focused around campaigns and gifts, engagement, reporting, and their marketing cloud connections. They will then begin sunsetting their legacy systems, and they will move to being fully live and into a FiniQuest system. FiniQuest is the foundation management system that sits on top of Salesforce that they will use to manage their operations moving forward. So a lot of great work going on in the foundation as well. The next phase will be athletics. We are Doing some pre-planning now to get ready to start gathering requirements, but we will not kick off the athletics phase until phase 1 and phase 2 are a little more stabilized and all the pieces are in place. So we're looking at sometime mid to late 2025, we'll start working with the athletics for the next phase of our Scarlet journey. Next slide, please. So sticking with the student mode, a very, very large initiative is our Student Experience Improvement Initiative. Next slide. So we've been working on this program for about 6 years now. The overall initiative is to advance the university's dedication for seamless, integrated, consistent, effective, and responsive services for our students. We started with our first launch in 2019, where we opened one-stop shops. We opened the one-stop shops on the Camden, Newark, and New Brunswick campuses. In 2021, we launched Oracle Student Financial Planning, our new financial aid system. We've done a lot of work around enhancement and reporting and analytic capabilities out of that system. And also this year, we completed our FAFSA simplification related updates and changes. So it was very publicly talked about throughout the year that the FAFSA, which is the federal program for financial aid, went through a major revamp this year, updated all their applications and forms, a big update for them. One of the most significant changes that they've made in the process in decades. So it was a very, very significant change. Unfortunately, the Department of Education had some challenges during their rollouts. So we typically start getting FAFSA information from the government in late November. That was delayed multiple times because of challenges and issues the Department of Education was having with their upgrades. So that impacted not only Rutgers, but all higher education institutions across the country. So we were experiencing significant delays in getting that information. We started receiving FAFSA data from the federal government in March. Unfortunately, we were immediately notified by the DOE that there were some issues with the data we got, and they had to pull it back and do some corrections. So in early May, we finally started getting correct FAFSA data from the federal government. Again, this was about 6 months behind when we normally get it. It was very impactful to our enrollment, our admissions, and our financial aid for this academic year. At the same time, we also rely on information from the state of New Jersey through their Higher Education Student Assistance Act. That information was also delayed because of the FAFSA delays. So in early May, we finally started getting all the data from the federal and the state government that we rely upon to offer financial aid to our students. However, during all these delays, our internal teams in enrollment services and our OIT colleagues in enterprise applications continue to work very, very diligently with Oracle, our vendor partner, in getting the system ready because these changes with the FAFSA required multiple reconfigurations and reprogramming of our financial aid system. So we were doing everything we could to get ready and test. So when that data did finally arrive, we were ready for it. So what happened was in early May, when we finally got all the correct data from the federal government as well as the state of New Jersey, we were able to immediately start loading and processing that data. So despite all the multiple delays, because we did so much diligent work and so much effort went into preparing, when that data did come in, within the first 3 days, we were able to process and issue over 38,000 financial aid packages for our students. So again, very technology enabled, our new systems being in place. We probably could not have done that much work had we not had these systems ready to go. So very great work by our teams. We are back on a normal cycle now and processing for this year. So we're processing the 24-25 aid year now for packaging, disbursement, working on the billing and the refunds. We will next look to the next phase of our student experience program, which is preparing for Student Management Cloud, the overall student information system. We will begin that with a business process review with all of our stakeholders across the university. That will kick off early next year. We're redesigning the reconciliation processes and reporting. Between having the new system, the new financial aid system in place, as well as all the FAFSA changes, and as well as looking at how that's now impacted as we've been through a couple cycles, seeing how that's impacting the operational processes with our financial aid offices and our registrar's offices and our one-stops and our admissions offices and our chancellor's offices, working with them to go back and review and refine some of those processes, but working on some reconciliation and reporting to help them moving forward to better align with this new system. We're also implementing a new case management process. Again, with all these changes, there's been an influx and an increase in students walking into the one-stop centers and coming into the school offices and the units with questions and concerns. So we're revamping our case management process to better serve and be more efficient and more expeditious in our responses with our students. And we continue to work on system enhancements and updates. Next slide, please. So we talked about enrollment and the numbers there. Then obviously, as we get admit coming and these students are admitted to Rutgers University, it comes over to financial aid. So in our first year, our first academic cycle within the new financial aid system, we processed and produced over 52,000 financial aid packages. The following year, fall 23, spring 24, that number went up. We offered almost 56,000 financial aid packages to our students. So a little over 3,000 student increase from one year to the next. The last number down there on the bottom is fall 24. This is only fall. So that's 48,000 packages have already been produced for this academic year for fall alone. And as you can see, that number is already increasing what we had the previous 2 years for fall and spring. So we are seeing significant increases. Again, that aligns with the university's missions. And as we move forward, offering more financial aid to more students, around more accessible education for everyone. So as we continue to work in the systems, we're also seeing increases in the number of students we're able to offer financial aid to. I'm going to pause there, see if there's any questions before we go on.
Hi, John. No questions submitted yet, but a reminder to all watching the webinar that you can submit using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Next slide, Max. So obviously the financial aid packages is one thing, but then when those packages go out, they need to be accepted by the students and they say, yes, I would like this financial aid. That then turns into disbursements, actually getting the students the money. So in fall 22-23, we dispersed for over 44,000 students, nearly $764 million in financial aid. In fall 23 and spring 24, the number of students went up a little bit to just over 45,000. And the actual financial aid that we dispersed to those students was just shy of $800 million. For fall of 24, again, this is only fall. We still have spring coming later. For the fall term, we've already issued over 35,000 disbursements and $362 million of funds for financial aid has already been dispersed to our students. So you can see there are some significant increases year over year there. Again, giving more financial aid to our students, making education more accessible and affordable for them. So we continue to see these increases and we continue to work with the students to get their money out to them. Next slide. So the next part of the process is Student Management Cloud. This is leading towards our student information system, the replacement of the overall student systems, which again, right now we have 2 different student systems that we're still using at the present moment. We will be sunsetting both of those and moving to one streamlined, consistent system for the entire university. Right now we are in the project planning mode. We've completed all of our project charters. Our project management plan is in place, where we define the vision, the mission, and the principles for the project. We are right now planning our governance committees, our executive steering and advisory groups. We're preparing to review those charters and committees with the executive committee in the coming weeks here. Next slide. So shifting gears, we want to move on to our HR payroll transformation initiative. Again, as is the goal for the overall Cornerstone program, it's the same for this initiative, is transforming how we work, both individually and collectively. So this initiative is focused on 3 areas: people, process, and systems. As in order for us to be successful in our transformation, all 3 of these must go hand in hand. The work we've done to this point has been with engagement across the university. Hundreds, literally, of folks from all chancellor units working with us on this program. Next slide. So a couple months ago, in meeting with our sponsors and our executive committees, we made a decision. The original intended go live date for the new Oracle Human Capital Management System was January 1st of 2025. We've made a decision to extend that date, and we've moved our go live date out to July 1st. As we were going through the initial configurations and the initial designs and discussions and starting to build the new system for Rutgers, we were coming across many, many very complex requirements that required really further in-depth analysis and configuration work. So this extra 6 months, this extension of the timeline, is going to allow us to have that necessary time to go back and look at our solution designs, as well as work with our campus units to socialize new business processes and really thoroughly test the new system. We also want to make sure we're providing enough opportunity and ample opportunity and time for the entire university community to not only be socialized and see the system, but get proper training before the system is launched. So we have moved that date out to July 1st, and you'll all be hearing about training opportunities and starting to see the system in these coming weeks here. Next slide, please. So far, we have completed a lot of work on this initiative. As Michele said, we're very, very active. There's a lot going on here. We've already completed our technical requirements reviews, our system reviews. We completed current state assessments. So we work with over 200 participants from the 4 chancellor units over a 39-week period, over 150 meetings, and over 500 hours, just focused on the project team getting a full understanding of how everyone that touches human resources and payroll works today. What are your processes? How do you do your job today to, so we can align that with the future state design, both system and process wise. We also completed all of our interactive design and prototypes. So we brought in a design review board, about 85 members on that. Again, representing all 4 chancellor units as well as all central administration offices. A key group of folks to work with our core project team and our implementation partners on the design and prototyping the new system. So we went through 11 weeks of what was called sprints, really looking at those configurations, getting into the detailed requirements and building out that system. We completed our design confirmations. Our phase 1 system configuration is complete. This is a multi-phase project. Right now, we're working on phase 1 with a very heavy focus on payroll, but also looking at some of the core human resources areas around benefits and compensation, et cetera. We've also completed our first 2 rounds of system integration testing. Again, testing the system, not only the Oracle system itself, but we've got multiple internal and external systems that we need to integrate with for data flows and sending and receiving information for the system to work properly. Next slide. So right now we're moving into our 3rd round of system integration testing. This is where we're starting to test. I just mentioned all those multiple systems we have. We have over 45 different systems we need to integrate and build interfaces with, both internal and external. So we are now, next week, October 1st, we will begin our 3rd round of system testing, and that will be focused on those integrations and interfaces, making sure all of our data flows and communications with these 45 plus other systems are all working and everything is going the way it is. We are also including all of our partners. We have a lot of external vendors and systems and programs that we work with. They will be joining us for some of these testing sessions for their specific platforms to make sure that everything is working properly, because many of these we'll be asking them and we'll need them to go back and make some changes on their end to work with our new system. So that's all being worked through now. That testing starts next week. 1 week behind that, on October 7th, concurrent with our system testing, we'll get into our future state business process review. So I just mentioned the current state, the 39 weeks and the 500 hours of discussion around how do we do business today. Now, as we're moving into testing and the new technology is being put in place, we now need to pull those folks back. Again, we got about a little over 250 people working with us to come back in and say, now let's start talking together and make decisions together around how does this modify the actual way we work, the business process, what you do on a daily basis, to start to align all those activities with the new technology, but also looking at opportunities. Many of the business processes that we have across the university today have been around for a long time. And it's time to look at where can we do things more efficiently. Times have changed, systems have changed, people have changed. Where do we have opportunities to build in more efficiencies, to improve our services, to be more responsive, to be more consistent, to be more streamlined. So those sessions will start in October 7th. We will go through about 3 months of meetings with them. We will bring recommendations forward, but we will work with all the chancellor units to make the final decisions on how these processes will work going forward. And then we will roll that right into training with all of our users. Early next year, again, moving into that 6-month critical period, getting ready for go live. One of the biggest areas that we'll focus on is payroll, and that's running parallel testing. So starting in January, we will start running payrolls. Everyone will still get paid out of PeopleSoft, and we will continue running payroll as we do today. However, at the same time that our production system is running and payroll continues to run, the live payroll through our current system, we'll be doing simultaneous testing and parallel testing in the new system. So after every payroll, we can go look, and if we don't touch the live payroll, that still goes out, but we see what comes out of the new system before we turn it live and make sure that everything is lining up and the gross to nets are working and the benefits are working and that whole payroll process is going through. So we will do 6 months of parallel testing before we turn the new system on to really ensure that payroll is going to be working when we go into the new system. We'll also start working on user acceptance testing and getting into training. Across the university, we're talking in excess of 27,000 people will require some level of training. Everyone will require very, very basic training, very minimal training. There are a lot of people, literally hundreds, actually in the thousands of folks who require some more intensive training, where things are really changing. The way they do their job is changing. They're very system oriented, very tech oriented in their roles today. We'll be using a new system. So we will spend several months going around and providing training. We will be engaging folks from all 4 chancellor units to work with us that can help us provide training within their individual units. PMO will, of course, help them and provide all the information and train them so they can go train others. So this will be a long process. We're already in the planning stages. The strategy documents and the high-level programs have already been developed. We're now moving into developing the individual training program. This will not be one program. This will not be one session where everybody comes and learns everything. There's going to be many different training courses depending on the role that you have at the university, so we can get you into the appropriate training and make the best use of your time. So that's all being planned for right now. We will start early in the year, January, February timeframe. We'll start rolling out some introductory training, really introducing folks to the new system, showing them some of the basics of how to log in, some of the home screens, et cetera. And then over the weeks and months leading up to July 1st, we'll start providing and getting into that very intensive full training. We'll also go through full user acceptance. We, again, from across the university, will invite everyone in to start going through the system and make sure that we're testing everything completely from end to end throughout the system. Next steps, next slide. So you can also get further information on these programs. We consistently update our websites. There are 5 here. There are some others. These are the key ones. The Cornerstone website has updates on all of our projects. Part of accounts phase 2, very tied to human resources, payroll. That's out there. We also have our human resources and payroll management, transformation website, Scar the Journey, as well as our student experience. So there are other forums and avenues out there to go get information. The project management office goes in very consistently, make sure we're keeping current information out there for everyone. So we can also, of course, visit our UFA website and contact the project management office directly if you have any questions or need any more information. Next slide. I think we're just about to wrap up here. What you will see from the project teams and the program going forward, you heard me talk a lot about working with the chancellor units and the numbers of people that we're working with. We will only be successful if you join us for the ride. We really need to collaborate. We need to communicate. We need to engage with each other. This needs to be a university effort. This cannot be just a project team in a bubble throwing out a new system. We're really working hard to engage folks from across the university to join us. We have Cornerstone newsletters, forums like this that we will offer consistently. For some of our larger projects like HR payroll, you will see as we get closer to go live, dedicated town hall meetings every month, focused just on that program. I just mentioned the websites. We also out of the PMO have change agent networks for all of our major initiatives and projects. So for example, on the HR payroll transformation initiative, we have a network of just about 100 people with representatives from across all the chancellor units and central administration offices that meet with the PMO regularly, that get information and get updates that they can take back to folks. They also help us make sure we go through proper identification of resources that need training and who gets engaged in the project, and help us make sure that the folks in their areas are getting the information they need and are being informed so we can move to a successful adoption of the new system. I think next slide, we're wrapped up. Aaron will open it up, see if there's any questions.
Hi, John. So far, just one question's come in. With the HCM implementation, do you anticipate any impacts to the staff and faculty tuition remission eligibility that's required to determine which employees should receive tuition remission? And it's also used, according to this questioner, to determine the full and half eligibility that's associated with one's salary or rank.
No, I don't anticipate any changes to the requirements of that program.
Thank you. That's the only question that's come in. I should say there was a question that I answered in text earlier. In case others have the same one, I'll go ahead and read it aloud. And that question was, where will we be able to access the recording after the fact? As John just shared, there's a Cornerstone website. I've put that link in the chat that hopefully the audience can see. And on that website, we post the recording of this session as well as the slides. And you'll, if you navigate to the Q&A, you'll be able to see the link listed there as well. Okay, another one's come in. Thank you. If payroll parallel testing does not go as expected and the project team determines that there's a need for further modifications or additional testing, will leadership consider adjusting the go live date again?
I would say that would be a very difficult conversation. It's not something that we want to do, but of course, barring anything happening, we're going to move forward. But of course, if there's a problem with payroll, we're going to have to go back to our executive committees and our sponsors and have that conversation. But right now, we're not anticipating any issues. So far, all testing has been going very well, and we're very focused on being ready for July. I think moving from January to July has really increased our confidence level and given us the time to make sure that we don't get in that situation. But
Thanks, John. That is it for now.
okay, if there's no other questions, we will let you all go. Thank you all very much for joining. This program will be posted. Our next forum is in December, so we'll provide more updates. We'll have a lot more information around training for the HCM system at that time. But thank you all very much for your time today. We look forward to working with you all very soon on these initiatives. Have a great day.
Thank you. And please note in the chat, I've shared a link to a survey. We welcome your feedback. You'll also receive a thank you email with this information.
Thanks, everyone.